start first with some of the structural variables, some of the structural factors that I think work positively for the president and for his reelection. And then we'll talk about some of the strategic factors that I think also will matter in the course of this election. First, we talk about structure and structural dynamics. Longevity is important. There is only one president in the last 100 years, or one presidential party, that has been removed from the White House after one party term, Jimmy Carter in 1980. Now, someone's going to quickly say, what about George Bush's father? George Bush's father was running for a fourth party term, a second personal term, but a fourth party term, 2 terms of Ronald Reagan, 1 term of his own, running for a fourth party term. Only one person has been denied a second party term, and that was Jimmy Carter in 1980. He was denied a second party term, and he's the only person in the last 100 years to be denied a second party term. The American public has a fundamental desire to give people a chance, 2-term chance at least, to get their programs and policies through. People understand that it takes a while to make things happen. Indeed, we've been monitoring this over time. If you ask people in public opinion polls, do they think that President Obama created this economic problem that we face today? People say no. In fact, the most recent poll, 60% said that President Obama did not create but inherited the economic problems that our country faces. Less than 40% said he created those problems. And most people will tell you, in polls and focus groups and elsewhere, people will tell you it's going to take some time to solve these problems. They were a long time in being created. They're going to be a long time in being solved. Now, that's not to say that people absolve him of responsibility. Even though most people say it's not his fault, at a certain point, people can't help but act as if he has some responsibility for those problems. He's been in the White House for four years. It does take a toll. Being in charge does matter, but there is a certain predilection that the public has to give people a full chance, a complete chance to implement their program, a real opportunity to make the kind of changes that they stood for, make the kind of changes they campaigned on, and that works in President Obama's favor. He's only had Democrats have only had 1 party term. He's looking for a second party term, and that is a situation where, again, with one exception, over the last 100 years, people have been reelected. Now, the second sort of underlying dynamic is the one that's probably discussed most of all, and that's the economy. And there's just no doubt that the economy and economic performance is a central structural fact that really helps to determine the outcome of presidential elections. Anybody, I think, who's looked at this will quickly agree that the data are very clear. There's just this very strong relationship between economic performance on the one hand and presidential election outcomes on the other. What is less clear is how to measure this abstraction that we call the economy. What is the appropriate way to look at that and measure whether or not the economy is good or bad? We can all agree that the economy is bad at the moment in general terms. But how we measure this thing we call the economy does matter. So, for example, if you look at the relationship between unemployment and presidential outcomes, you'll find that there is none.